Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel for videographers, content creators, and filmmakers. In this episode, I answer the question, how do I get paid as a videographer? Maybe you've got the gear, you've learned how to use it, and now you're looking to book your first gig, but maybe you don't want to shoot weddings or do real estate videography. There are many different ways that you can earn an income by doing video production work. So in this video, I go over the 5 ways that I personally earn money as a videographer and a film director, and I hope that you'll find these tips very useful. So the very first one is what I am currently doing, which is working as a freelancer and a contractor. Now, there are pros and cons to each of these different types of incomes, and I'll go over each of them. So for freelancing, I would say the number one thing that I think is a huge pro is being able to pick your own hours and choose to have a good sense of work-life balance. Because you don't have a set 9 to 5, it is up to you to determine when you take breaks, how hard you work, how often you work, and I actually really like this sense of freedom. The other thing that is really great about freelancing is you get to decide how much you get paid. Now, this is based off of your skill. You can't just throw $200 out there and expect somebody to hire you at that rate. But if you have the skills to support it, you could charge as high as $100 an hour, $50 an hour, whatever, depending on your own situation. And this is generally a lot higher than a salary position. Another benefit is choosing which clients that you want to work with, people that support your values, that you really knit well with, people who also have that same sense of style or have an appreciation for you. And these are all really positive things that a lot of times you don't get if you're with one company. On top of that, a side little bonus is that you get to write off a portion of your house, utilities, vehicle, and your gear on taxes because these are all things that are in support of your work from home business. Now, there are some cons with this, and speaking of writing off gear, there are 2 things that you have to consider when you're working as a freelancer, and one of them is you have to supply your own equipment. Some companies will give you gear to rent, or they'll give you a small amount of budget in order to get the appropriate gear that you need for the film shoot, but in general, you should have your own gear. You should have cameras, lights, microphone, audio, things like that, anything to be able to cover a basic film shoot. And then everything on top of that, you can rent for extra, or you can get a budget from the client in order to cover the extra pieces. Now, another downside is that you have to pay quarterly taxes. And this can be a little bit of a hassle, but it's just part of the whole system. I personally use QuickBooks because it's very easy. The self-employed one doesn't cost too much. If you do want to use QuickBooks, which does everything for you and does your invoicing and calculates your taxes at the end of the year, I do have a link in the description box below. I believe you get 50% off of the QuickBooks Self-Employed app. And for me, there's really not that much of a kickback. I get a little bit of money, but it's especially helpful for you if you're going to be submitting your taxes every single quarter because that adds up quite a bit. Another downside is that you have to pay for your own benefits, your own health insurance, your own dental, and your own business insurance that covers not only your gear, but emergencies in case something happens while you're trying to establish yourself as a freelancer. This last con is something that I am very guilty of doing, and that's working too many hours. Even though you have the freedom to determine your own schedule, a lot of times instead of just working 40 hours, people will tend to work more, and it's because you have to take care of your gear, you have invoicing, you have taxes to do, and all that adds up over the course of the week to maybe 50 or 60 hours. But for me, it's because I get so involved in the artwork that I create and the videos that I produce that I just get really excited about it, and it doesn't feel like work when I'm driving my own business. A lot of times it just feels like I want to take on more work because it's all very exciting. This next one is one that a lot of people don't think about, but it is fairly useful even though you're not going to get paid a lot up front, and that's selling stock footage. So if you're going to be out and about anyway, filming, if you're on a hike or on vacation, it doesn't take that much effort to get a few extra videos here and there, and later you can package it and sell it on a platform like Shutterstock or Storyblocks. So the great thing about this is you only have to publish it once, and then it's the gift that keeps on giving. You keep getting paid over and over. It's not active work, it's passive income, and it's a great way to make a few extra dollars. The bad thing is that you do need to own your own equipment because it doesn't make any sense to rent a really expensive camera simply for the fact that you want to shoot all this extra B-roll and cross your fingers, hope that people like it enough that they're going to purchase it. So you do need to own your own gear. The other downside is that it takes a while to build up a portfolio that's big enough where you start to see the residual income. In the beginning, you're only going to be making mere pennies, and then you'll be making a few dollars, and it's not until your portfolio is quite large that you'll be making a couple $100s a month extra. This next one is one that I've specialized in myself, and it's my bread and butter for my business, and that's doing social media one-offs. What do I mean by this? Well, a lot of times companies have a marketing team or an internal team, but they don't necessarily have somebody who's really skilled at videography, and that's where you can step in. So you're an external company that's being hired in order to help them create this vision or this project that they have already storyboarded or their marketing team has already created and approved. Now, this does not mean that you necessarily go in and run their social media, but you create all the content for it. And for me, this is really exciting because not only is this usually very high energy, but it's a lot of fun working with these types of clients. Now, the pros to it is that it's very high energy, very colorful, and trendy. This means that you're gonna have to have a really good understanding of not only marketing and branding, but also how public relations works and how different things like SEO and keyword research works. So if you have this background or an understanding of it, this can be a fantastic job because it's a nice balance between business and creativity. Another pro is there is a lot of availability, especially due to quarantine and COVID. Companies have realized that maybe they didn't have as much video content as they originally thought they had, and they didn't have a good way to be able to reach their employees and their audiences and their target customers. So someone like me who can step in and be very niche in terms of a certain style that they really appreciate, or go after a certain look that's really high-end, looks like a filmmaker did it because my background is in filmmaking, that is something that they really value. Their marketing team is usually very capable of just shooting very basic interviews or doing small commercial spots here and there, but sometimes they need a filmmaker to step in and really bring a high-level type of video for them. Another pro is the clientele that you work with is really great. Not only do they have a good understanding of trying to get an end goal, but the projects turn over rather quickly, so they don't spend a lot of time, nitpicking the small details. They'll give you a really basic understanding of like, this is what we're going for, and usually within 2 weeks, you turn the video around to them that's shot, edited, published, everything. It's a really fast process, and you get paid quite well for it. That's actually one of my clients right now. I should silence my phone. Tip number 4 is a type of income that a lot of people don't think about, and it's crazy to me because I guess this is something that's not commonly known, but you can get paid for showing your film in a film festival. So for those of you who are not in the commercial field, but you've created a short film, you can actually publish this at a film festival and people will come see it, want to buy the rights from you in order to show it at other film festivals or even at local theaters. So for example, you get your film into a really great festival, it gets a lot of attention, maybe it gets some awards. Well, somebody is in the audience recruiting and they want to be able to show this amazing film in other film festivals because they want to pull in audiences. If there's rumors like, hey, XYZ film did a really great job and now it's coming to your local city in Austin, Texas, that might draw in a huge audience. And so these recruiters are constantly looking for films that they can buy. So the con to this is that your film is not being paid for up front. You still need investors or something like Kickstarter in order to fund your film to make it, but once it has been made and you're going to enter it into film festivals anyway, you might as well get paid for it. The pros to this are not only getting paid in much larger chunks than doing quick little videos for companies here and there, but it's an excellent networking opportunity. It looks great on your IMDb to be like, hey, not only did I make this film and it got into film festivals, but I also got paid for it. So it is a commercial in circulation film. The cons to this are there's a little bit of luck involved. You have to make sure that you apply to the right film festivals. If you're doing a horror film and you're going to some international film festival where they don't really show that, that might be a disconnect for the audience. So you need to make sure that you pick the right film festival, and on top of it, you have to pay the entry fees to get in. After all this, there's still a chance that somebody is not in the crowd looking to purchase a film, and there's also the fact that you have to spend time networking and doing your due diligence on your end. You can't just show your film and expect somebody to be like, "You're such a genius, let me come buy it." You still have to do some work yourself. And the last type of income is a field that I actually just left, but it's a very stable and steady field, and that is a salary position. A lot of times when people are like, "Hey, I'm gonna be a filmmaker," they think that you have to freelance it 100% of the time, and that is not true. There are plenty of jobs out there that require a videographer that may not necessarily be called a videographer position. For example, my former position was called creative director, and that meant I took care of marketing, branding, motion graphics, 2D graphics, storyboarding, script writing, and a big chunk of it was video production and video editing. So here are some other words that might be useful for you if you're doing a search on monster.com or Indeed or any of those other job-seeking platforms, because doing videography work is not necessarily always called videographer. For example, marketing and brand director, art director, head of video department, these types of things. So what are the pros? Well, you are pretty much guaranteed your salary income, which is a great relief every single week knowing that you're going to get paid no matter what. On top of that, you get health benefits and other insurance like life insurance or 401k investment funds. And these are really great because these can be very expensive out of pocket as an individual. I know this right now because I'm paying for it myself as a freelancer, and those fees are quite high. What's good about the benefits is the company is going to supply the payment for most of it, and so you only have to pay for a portion of what it normally would have been. Another bonus is access to a lot of great gear. The company that I worked for had so many cameras and gear, and it was open to employees to rent and use on weekends if you wanted to, as long as you took care of it and it didn't interfere with any of our clientele work. Another thing that is great relief is you don't really have to hunt for clients. A part of your job might be going out and making relationships in order to get more work brought in, but for the most part you have a sales and a marketing team who does a lot of that for you. So a lot of times on a daily basis you're just doing your job and they kind of bring the clients to you. Another little side benefit was just being able to travel a lot. The clientele that I handled when I was working salary was a lot of Fortune 500 and boutique companies, so they were more than happy to fly me in, put me up in a nice hotel. I'd be able to meet CEOs and team leaders, and I just learned quite a bit, and it was a really interesting experience for me. Now, there are cons just like with any job, and for me the number one thing that sticks out working salary was going overtime and not getting paid for it. So for me, most weeks I was working between 60 and normally towards the end about 80 hours a week, which was just so much work, and it meant that you really don't have work-life balance. So despite having all the benefits and being able to get that fixed income every single week, it kind of doesn't matter how much more you work, you're always going to get paid the same. The other thing that I disliked about working salary that I thought was a huge con was that it really restricts your creativity. You're sort of set to what the company needs or what your clients need, and there's not a lot of room for open exploration. And this is because you're there to earn money, not to explore your own creative endeavors. And over time, this really restricted how much I was able to grow individually as an artist. And so even though I was around a lot of film equipment and film crews, and I was doing tons of creative work, I just ran out of creativity after a while. Towards the end there, I just couldn't come up with new ideas for anything. I had completely burned out. Another thing too along those same lines is that a lot of times when you work in a salaried position, you have to wear multiple hats. So you're not just a videographer, you're not just a video editor, you're also on the marketing team, you're a manager, you're a leader, you're a crew member. So there's quite a bit that you have to do at the same time, and that can also lead to burnout. So those are my top ways to earn money, and these are all different things that I've been working on for the last 4 years. So with the exception of being salaried, I pretty much apply myself to all 4 other types of income, and I've seen great success in them. So a lot of it is just a matter of putting forth the effort, believing that you can actually do it, and picking up that phone and just making those calls to try and get the job. So I wish you the best of luck. If you want a tutorial or you have a question that you would like answered, please post in the comments below. Another way that you can reach me is by following me on Instagram and sending me a DM. I'm more than happy to answer your questions there. That's it for this episode. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.